All right, let's go ahead and make sure we're live and everything. Give me a few moments to go ahead and check that, which we should be all good to go here. Which it sure looks like we are. Heck yeah, we are. All right. What's going on? Now, clearly, we have the two races today. I'm going to be doing the second live show for Atlanta post the Truck Series race, just because, we don't have a lot of situations where we have two races in one day with a drastic difference in starting times and stuff. So I just figured I'd do the Atlanta stuff later. So I'll be at 5:30 Eastern time tonight. As we look at the Truck Series race at Lime Rock here, I'm very excited for this race. I think Lime Rock's a really, really good racetrack for um, understanding where somebody's skill is at a road course. It's very unlikely that anybody will actually do anything in a car that's bad. It's very unlikely that somebody who's a bad driver will be able to do a lot of stuff. We're just looking at the average practice speeds really fast, just to have that on the screen, just to be aware of kind of where everybody's at. However, I want to note that Rajah Caruth ran incredibly long, but there's really no one, outside of the dude in the 62 who like blew up and stuff, and even Dawson Sutton. Everybody ran a good amount of laps. Now we did end up having quite a lot of situations where people went into pit, and so um, obviously, if we're looking at a long run speed consecutively, there's pretty much none to be found, just because between yellows and guys going off track and stuff, and then going back down the pit lane to make adjustments, we really didn't have that. But when we're looking at where everybody's at, just on averages and stuff, and this is only averages under 60-second lap times. Now, we did start to encroach on like 59, 58-second lap times, but realistically, we're not going to be able, or like, we're not going to see lap times over a minute long unless somebody's like completely messing up in the race. So I went ahead and did not use any lap pretty much over a minute long, just to get an idea of where everybody was at here. And when we look at the top, obviously Corey Heim, Kane Honeycutt, Lane Riggs, Ty Majeski, these guys are up top. I do want to add that um, we just have to check, or at least be aware before a lock, if Taylor's going to the back, and if Enfinger is going to the back, which I would envision Enfinger for sure, since he had the damage on the front. And then Jordan will just go to the rear if they decide to change that tire that he potentially flat spotted. I'm not really concerned about either one of those guys going to the back of the field, because when we're looking at this race here, now we don't have any of the typical road course shenanigans that we have at road courses, because we don't have active pit stops today. Okay, so since I don't have the pit crews there, nobody is going to pit before the end of the stages. Okay, that also means that since we're not having live pit stops, okay, nobody can gain or lose positions on pit lane. Okay, so that means we're only having people pass and gaining positions on the racetrack. Okay, now we could have a situation where guys get stupid entering turn one, since it's so flat and they fly out into the grass or whatever. But really, as long as they can get to the back straightaway, I don't really foresee. And I mean, somebody might run off going up and over the hill on five, but I really don't see a lot of chaos in this race with how spread out the practice speeds were, with how spread out the qualifying speeds were. I just think we're gonna have guys, spread out and not really be packed up, especially once we get through the initial corners and stuff, just because they're so flat. And I mean, obviously, the first one is a much higher, and it's a super long carousel, right? Like, I just don't envision we're going to be side by side really much after going down the back straightaway, and certainly after the first lap and stuff. And so, I am much more interested in approaching this race. And let me go ahead and get this on my screen on this side. I'm very much more approaching this race from a projection standpoint, as if we're not going to be having quite a lot of passing. So what does that mean? I mean, this is kind of where I'm kind of leaning for people. And when we start looking at what the projections start being up in this range here, um, so like obviously like Infinger, for example, even if he goes to the rear, I don't really envision Infinger finishing better than 10th here. Same thing with like Tyler Ankerman stuff. Whereas like I would much rather try and chase guys that I think can maintain a position inside the top 10 all day. With people like Caden Honeycutt, Raja Caruth. Obviously, Corey Heim is expected to run away with this race and lead, especially if Taylor goes to the rear. I firmly believe if Taylor goes to the rear, I think he's probably still going to finish in the top 5. It's just going to come down to if he can scrape off fast laps and laps led. Right now, I'm just going to tell you right now. I have Corey Heim projected for 67.8 DraftKings points and Jordan Taylor for 48.8 points. Those are my two highest projected guys in the entire field. Obviously, the Jordan one is dependent on what he ends up if he ends up going to the rear or not. But when we're looking at lineups and stuff, I mean, even Jack Wood at 58. I mean, he needs 25 points to pay it off. I think he could very easily do it. In terms of who he's around, Slint Boyd, Dale, like why is Corley out here at like 8,000 years old? If there's one thing I hate in racing, it's very very elderly, old, decrepit, old people wasting time running ass last and saying that it's that's just what real racers do. It's not. Please leave and get out of here. But like when we're looking at the speed between these guys in the back of the field, like we're just not like they can't realistically get up through the field. As we continue to go through and look at people who can realistically pass, whether they be in Nice Motorsports equipment, whether they be in I mean when we're both looking at Matt Mills and like Josh Bilicki here, like 18th, like I think Bilicki's very much in play. I think Matt Mills is very much in play. The Freezing Craft and Gray, with them, all sitting around like 15th and stuff at $7,000. Like, I think, there's a good chance that one of these three ends up, finding to be optimal today. But for the most part, if I'm envisioning, somebody not really passing more than 4 to 5 cars in this race, I'm really not going to be interested in playing them. If you have my projections and you're looking at where, what my highest predicted lines are looking like, those are the lineups I'm going to be using today, just because I think, and I would lean towards outside of restart wrecks and stuff. I mean, we have to survive at least 2 right off the bat with stage 1 and stage 2, or at the end of entering stage 1, entering stage 3. But I think this race goes pretty green, and I think, I mean, that's just where I'm going to be attacking Lime Rock from. What's going on, Alex? I mean, I think that's mainly it. I don't really have much else to talk about here. I think this is going to be an extremely low scoring slate. I do want to make a note of that. I think when we're looking at very low scoring slates and stuff, obviously this is 100 laps, but Corey or Jordan should be able to collectively lead nearly the entire race. Okay. If I mean, we can even go here and we can kind of look at where these guys are at. And the one thing that I do want to note or look at is just the now track performance. We're just looking at road courses here because obviously we haven't ran races here. But like when we look at the average speed rank of people here, Majeski, Corey Heim, Ancrum Rhodes, Freeze, and Infinger and stuff like this. But this yet again, this is only people who have ran. Obviously, we have tons of new people in this field, but Corey Heim and Jordan Taylor should fight to lead the most amount of laps in this race, if not nearly lead the entire race. Because of that, going back to what people are going to be scoring now. Granted, the median for 4th is 48. 5th is looking at 46. We're looking at 44 for 6th, 42 for 7th, and 41 for 8th. But what I more so mean by a low scoring is I think lineups are going to be extremely close together, whether they're unique, whether they're trains. This should be a very, very tight scoring type of slate because at least for me, I would expect so little movement in the field. The only people who can, I mean, obviously, when we're looking at like who's actually in play to potentially gain positions here, we're looking at, you know, I don't know if Garcia really goes from like him and going from 17th to 14th is right at 32 points, like not in a value range for me that I'm super crazy about. Um, but continuing on, like the people highlighted here, I think are really the only ones you can actually realistically use. I typically like using Ankrum and Infinger and even Hemrick in most situations here, but I just don't know if they gain enough positions here. And yet again, with like the Nice Motorsports cars of Matt Mills and Balicki, like I think Balicki will. I mean, I'm for 13th. I think Balicki is very very live for a top 10 here. Just based on the skill level of this field and really the lack of skill level from the um, like back half of the field, like Balicki straight up like the 13th best driver in this race. The fact that his race is not going to be determined on the lackings of what Nice has on the pit lane. He can actually just drive through. Um, Same thing with LeBay. Um, Now I want to check where these guys are at here. I mean, that's nothing to be concerned of. That's nothing to be concerned of. And this is what's concerned me about like Hemrick and Ankrum and stuff. So like these guys ran a decent amount of laps, right? And just Ankrum and Hemrick are drastically too expensive for what they offer. Whereas I would literally just take what Balicki is giving, what Alex Labey is giving in very similar times um, to what Ankrum and Hemrick are doing, at a much steeper price tag and stuff. Um, Now, LeBay is in the 22, but I'm actually not too. I mean, he didn't run a lot of laps, but I actually don't hate Balicki today, even though the Reum trucks are pretty dog shit. Um, but like Matt Crafton, Tanner Gray, like they're slow for a reason. We love playing these guys at intermediates just because they're consistently, top 14 in speeds. But when it comes down to like Tanner Gray's great at intermediates because Tricon is able to elevate, like Tanner Gray can keep the wheels down, at least most of the time when he's not wrecking. But where Tricon is on intermediates, that's a top 15 car. The fact that this is much more in Tanner Gray's hand, um, you know that that scares us with Tanner Gray, with Kraft, and even with Friesen. Now Friesen is probably we'll see where Friesen is at here. I mean, all these guys are really, really like shockingly slow, especially when we're looking at what like the actual field is going to be running at with near. I mean, these guys are nearly like even best case situation. I mean, these guys are almost a second off of what the top 10 are going to be running, right? Um, but they're in the 7K range. This is really not a race outside of Corey Heim and Taylor. Unless you think Lane is in play because I mean, he could very easily win the race if stuff happens up front. Same thing with Majeski because these guys have been like the Corey Heim, Lane Riggs, and Majeski have been some of the better guys at the road course this year. But really, outside of these guys up top, I really don't want to be playing really anybody in the 8K range or in the 9K range. Now I do have Ben Rhodes highlighted here, but just the fact that I think we could very easily get Corey Haim at 12,000 and then fill the rest of the lineup with 7K guys, 6K guys that are fairly equivalent in terms of upside to what the more expensive guys are doing. That's how I'm probably going to approach this here. Yeah, I get, dude. I just don't these dude quarterly with these old guys, dude. I can't believe it. That's why the ARCA series is so funny because especially at Daytona, like I'd love watching the old elderly gentlemen like ARCA break into crashes. That's like the only thing to see here. Uh, okay, yeah. So Anderson is not Anderson. Taylor is not going to the rear. So now that we have that knowledge, okay, the fact that I have, so I don't have to change anything here. As I said, I have Corey Haim at 67.8. I have Jordan Taylor at 48.8 points today. Head to head, now that we now have the question mark of what happened with Taylor. Um, those are the guys I have projected to finish 1-2. I think it's very 50-50 on either one of these guys winning the race. I don't really lean one or the other. I think Jordan Taylor is one. I'm biased because I like Jordan Taylor, but outside of that, one of the most skilled road course guys in the world. Same thing with Corey Haim. Like Corey Haim knows what he's doing. Corey Haim, like very skillful. Like we all know that. I would actually be very open to playing these two together, and especially with me liking these two to finish 1-2 so much. Um, that's as I talk things out of how I'd want to build lineups and stuff, by default that's the lowest scoring of the two scoring 42 points, because they're going to flip-flop between winning and losing, whatever. So like it's going to be 45 points plus fast laps and laps led for the winner, and then 42 plus fast laps and lap led for the winner and stuff. So I actually really really like playing Corey Haim and Jordan Taylor together in this race. When we're looking at, I mean, we can really, if we're splitting hairs between what Taylor's going to have to deal with Caden Honeycutt, Lane Riggs, and Ty Majeski and stuff. So obviously slightly higher average to Ty Majeski and Caden Honeycutt. But what we can do really fast is we're going to leave these up here. We're going to look at these four drivers together and see, where they're at specifically when we look at these laps. So obviously it's Corey Haim, just showing really, really consistent speed across the board. How drastically far off was Taylor once he understood what the car was going to end up doing and stuff? So 0.2 off, very similar to Caden Honeycutt here in the Q run. Straight 54.0. Yet again, thank you, Evan Really Distributed, for having the practice data that I could use. I think Jordan Taylor's very, very live here. How many lineups do I want to do today for this race? Oops. Okay. I think I'd want like 10 to 15% of my portfolio having Jordan Taylor and Corey Haim together. And then if it's not using Jordan Taylor and Corey Haim together, then it's probably using and I mean I have the lineups here. I'm not going to show the lineups because there's not really a lot of variance. Typically, when we're doing paywall, I mean, when I do paywall shows, I don't give a shit, right? Because it's people paying me. But typically, when I show lineups that I'm looking at have an idea of playing, it's because there's a lot of leeway or variance in terms of what can happen. The fact that it's 100 laps, I don't envision this race having a ton of carnage. Yet again, if there is carnage, it's going to be on restarts and just in turn one. because of that, I'm absolutely defaulting to my projections and showing the lines. I'd be absolutely showing what I'm playing here. I just know for a fact when I was looking at stuff before the show, some of my highest lines had Corey Heim and Taylor with each other. The ones that didn't have Taylor either potentially had Ty Majeski or Lane Riggs, and then the ones below that had Corey Heim by himself, and then people like Raja Caruth, Ben Rhodes, um, Jack Wood. Still more balanced type of lineups and stuff. This is a situation where I don't know if we're going to have a lot of people actually end up scoring hitting value. Last thing I want to check really fast is looking at the end of the row course scoring for the Truck Series really fast. So let's look at the last 4 races. I want to check and make sure. So we have Coda that had 46 laps. We had Mid-Ohio that had 67, and we had Austin at 42. Let's go ahead and look at Mid-Ohio really fast and just see if we can have, wrong one. See if we can have an understanding of kind of where people end up scoring. Because yet again, yeah, sure, we have more laps led, but if we're expecting a runaway from 2 to 3 people drastically being faster, the increase in laps isn't really that important because it's still being centered around one guy. What's going on here, dog? We're loading. I need to look at. Am I stupid? Hold on. We're low. What is going on here? Why are we loading? Why are we taking so long to load? Okay. Let's look at 2024. Let's look at trucks here. They only went to 1. Oh yeah, because it has been a long time. I didn't really want to look at Austin really fast because it's 46 laps, but we can go ahead and do that really quick here. I want to look at Mid-Ohio in 2023 when this ends up pulling the data from it. Let me see what you guys are saying really fast while this loads here. No, for real. For real. Okay, so that's loaded here. I want to check and see, when did this race end? Do we go to overtime here? Yeah, we did. Okay, for whatever. Yeah, 46. Okay, whatever. I just want to see what these points are looking like here. Yeah, so this is the main kind of thing that we have to kind of battle today, right? Again, we have Ben Rhodes going from the rear, starting dead last. Stephanie, again, this is last year, but we don't really see a ton of wild place differential movements here. A lot of people, and this is even with the Cup Series teams here, but 66, 62, 62, 51, 47, 43, 41, and then a big drop to 38. Let's go ahead and look at that Mid-Ohio race in 2023. Why is this so slow today? Oh, we might be working on the website actually. Where is the Mid-Ohio? There we go. Okay, so let's go to 67 here. Actually, we could actually just look at race results. What am I talking about here? 71, 58, 57, 53, 51, 43, 42. I'm going to guess there's quite a lot of place differential here. Yeah, so we have 35, 25 to 6, 12, 10, 14, 24. Man, even still not that crazy. Let me go ahead and yeah, these are the top fantasy scores. Not really concerned about that, but we just need to focus on guys actually finishing up front. So I'm more than willing to not chase place differential, especially because it's at such a low clip rate for the truck series here. Excuse me. What are we looking at here? Let's see, we have an hour and 9 minutes until the start of the race. It's not even that much from the back of the field. Yeah, that's actually that's not bad at all, actually. Or actually not a lot. Actually, not bad. Not bad makes it seem like I'm shocked. This is not a lot of place difference from the back at all, actually. So I'm willing to take a stand in chasing guys starting up in the top half of the field, or if they are projected to score similar to like more expensive people, like Josh Bilicki. Like I would take Josh Bilicki versus Tyler Ankrum and Infinger to have a higher score at the end of the race today. Let's see. That's so funny. Dale really, that's so funny. What a bunch of all these old people, dude. Go away. That's mainly it. I guess I will see you guys in at 5:30 Eastern to go over the Atlanta race and stuff here. Everything's updated on the website for both these projection sources and stuff like that. Yeah, past that, I will see you guys for the Atlanta stream later today. Bye bye.